And let's get into this replay between a player that I've recently acquired the autosave of, Leeboknam. I've heard his name mentioned before a couple of times by Duyu, who is known as JH to all of us players from Starcraft world. And yeah, he's playing on the name Duyu. So we already know that Leeboknam has himself an absolutely formidable opponent in JH, here playing the purple Terran on the top right of the map. And I've been told by both Leeboknam, also known as Gold SCV to us people from StarCraft world, and from JH, that Leeboknam, who's here playing the teal Protoss on the middle left of the map, is quite a formidable player himself as well. I don't know if he's better than either JH or Gold SCV, or whether he's on the exact same level, but from what I've heard, he is around the same level, about the same caliber of a player. He did fall behind a little bit because he had military service for about, I think it was, I'm not sure what the period of military service in Korea is, but I assume it's well over a year. So he had a little bit of a break for a couple of years, where he had to go through military service. And he has come back somewhere in August, so he's a little bit new to the current developments in the meta on StarCraft fastest map. Because, contrary to popular belief, it does go through meta changes every now and then. But he seems to be up to date on the current build order, although the pile inside of the choke is missing, which is a small deviation, and he's going for a third gateway. This is actually, maybe it's because the names are so similar, but this is actually a Leeboknam, aka Gold SCV Protoss build. He also tends to go for 3 gateways, no pylon in the choke, all after his +1 Nexus of course. And I will admit, the +3 gateway does give you a little bit more leverage in terms of zealot count and ability to abuse Terran with your zealots. But most players tend to go for just 2 gateways and harass with those 2 zealots, 2 gateway zealot pump, to get their leverage over the Terran and get their cannons up in the choke, just to keep the Terran busy and deny them from having any offensive capability in the early stages of the game. Duyu now chasing down the probe. He manages to snipe the probe before it enters the base, so it means that Leeboknam doesn't know what Duyu is up to just yet. But the amount of options that Duyu has in terms of what he can do is quite kind of limited, because it's a given that he has barracks. It's a given that he's going to add on 2 command centers at some point into the game. It's a given he's going to get an academy. It's going to be a given that he's going to get stim upgrade. So it's pretty much just, doesn't matter that he didn't get in there. At least he knows where Duyu is located. And this is where those 3 gateway zealot pump is going to come out handy. Because now instead of having 4 zealots, he has 5 zealots, and his 5 zealots will be able to deal way more damage to those marines than just 2 would. Because as we can see, already 1 zealot went down. A couple of marines went down as well. Now he is forced to pull back to his cannon. With the support of that cannon, those marines will not be able to advance. And given that there are no medics out for Duyu just yet, Duyu is kind of forced to just stand and watch from afar as the cannons are going to be coming up and the zealots chasing them away. It's just going to be a back and forth here. Cybernetics core is on the way for Leeboknam. You can see in the top left corner, stim upgrade also on the way. Zealots getting in there quite nicely. Marines have to pull out and split up in all kinds of different directions to micro. That's just really difficult to micro into all kinds of different directions. Way easier to micro if you can keep your units all balled up in a small spot, in a small ball, and just move them backwards. If the zealots get in between those marines, and you're forced to split them up in a different direction, it becomes very hard to micro your marines. But he did a really good job of microing his marines there and keeping those zealots away. He did lose a lot of marines, but a couple of zealots went down as well. A couple of zealots are also on very low HP, so Duyu is doing a great job of not dying in these fights. Now he even gets the upper hand as he catches those zealots out on the middle. I think 3 of those zealots will go down. 3 zealots went down there. One managed to scrape by the hair of his teeth and get himself the safety behind those cannons. Now adding on a lot more cannons. Got 3 cannons there, 2 more cannons are on the way. Oh, 1 cannon's on the way. There's 7x core. I mean, a robotic facility behind those cannons. Citadel of Dune has come down as well. He's making 2 Citadel of Dune. That's a huge mistake there. So now it means he cannot make a second robotic facility. I hope he notices it. That's great. He notices that he was making a second Citadel of Dune. Robotic support bay coming out there as well. And instead of going for a second robotics facility, he's going for a total of 5 gateways. No Citadel of Dune. It's going to be oh, there's the second one, but it's delayed because of the Citadel of Dune that he made 1 too many of by accident. Which means that Duyu has more time than he should have to do his thing. Because usually Leeboknam, I assume, would go for the double Reaver after the shuttle. But now he can only make a single Reaver, and he's going to have to try and push his advantage with just that single shuttle Reaver, or Reaver shuttle, however you want to call it. On the upside though, he does have a lot of Zealots. He's got Zealot lags on the way as well, shuttle speed on the way there. He's got weapon upgrade for Zealots as well. Ground weapons. And the infantry weapons are on the way for Duyu, so those Marines will be ramping up in damage potential very soon as well. There's a turret coming down. Make it harder for Dark Templars to get in, or for shuttles to fly in over the front. No turrets on the side just yet. Reaver has finished, has been picked up. Another Reaver is on the way, but this Reaver is going to have to wait for the second round of attacks. The first wave of attacks is moving out. He's keeping his Zealots inside of his base. And the shuttle is going to fly right into those Marines and get sniped off. I actually wonder if Duyu placed his Marines there knowing that Leeboknam was going to take that path. Because if he did, that's absolutely genius. That's really smart. Placing your Marines in the path where you expect the shuttle to fly over. Great pickup from Duyu. Really thinking ahead and planning ahead with his placements of his units. Now he's going to have to save these Marines. He's going to have to re-stim them again because the stim is going to end. And those Zealots have speed. Tank drop is flying out at the same time. And the front here gets plucked up. And Leeboknam decides to pull back because he doesn't want those Zealots to take all that much damage from trying to take down his depot. So he's going to land a Reaver there. A Reaver's going to take care of these depots, but a tank drop is flying in at the same time. But Leeboknam knows that Duyu was going to go for the tank drop and put down a lot of cannons here. And Duyu does not get a shot off on those probes. Probes stay alive. That's absolutely great for Leeboknam because now it means he can keep putting the pressure on Duyu. Duyu a little bit behind on his SCVs because he only went for a single +1 command center. He does have his upgrades on the way, does have a factory, does have a starport. And he has a small choke here. If Leeboknam had gone for Templars and Storm upgrade a little bit earlier, he's got 2 Templars on the way now. Does not have his 2 Templars finished as well. So Templar Storm upgrade is about to finish as well. If he had that out a little bit earlier, he could have gone for the push here because he could have stormed those Marines and would have forced those Marines to pull back. Maybe even killed them. If Duyu messed up his micro there or didn't micro them at all, he could have pushed this in. But that's not gonna happen. Instead, Leeboknam has amassed a huge amount of shuttles, 6 shuttles in total. Leeboknam, it's a pretty good timing on those shuttles because there's very little static defense on the sides for Duyu. Duyu did pull back most of his Marines to the sides and to the back of his base. Shuttle's now loading up. Shuttle's going to fly in very soon. And there's a small chance that this Marine is going to spot it. And actually, it is going to spot it. Which means Leeboknam now has to fly in immediately. Or he can wait there on the side and extend the timing a little bit. He's gonna fly in, he's gonna meet all those Marines there, so he tries to divert his attention. Corsair taking the brunt of the focus. A single one of those shuttles went down, but he does get in there, just managed to drop all of his... great storm comes down from Leeboknam on those SCVs, but SCVs get pulled off just in time. Marines now stimming in, taking down most of the ground force, but there's still a couple of Zealots there in the mix. Zealot AI is being kind of stupid and making them walk all the way around instead of just taking this path here. Ooh, and a great tank shot takes down about 14 SCVs. This is a great move from Leeboknam, making sure that the Zealot moves towards the stacked SCVs. So this siege tank here takes down its own SCVs with splash damage. Great shot by Duyu on his own SCVs. Great move from Leeboknam. Leeboknam now has a little bit of overmind, but he's steadily building onto his base, focusing on executing his plan. And his plan is mass drops, spamming them all the way over Duyu's base. Gets a great storm off on those Marines. Second storm misses. Third storm gets another one. Still a fourth one in there, and he cleans out, barring just 3 Marines. He cleans out all of the Marines there with the storms, and these 3 Zealots are going to clean out the remainder. 2 Marines left now. Marines being pulled down from the top side of the base to clean out these Archons here. These Archons are a huge threat to those Marines, and he's going to focus on those Marines. He's not focusing on those Archons, he's just letting them do their thing. While he's sending in yet another drop, he's really sending out these drops quite quickly in rapid succession. Really reminiscent of 458's Protoss style. Not letting the pressure ever stop. Shuttles fly in, shuttles get focused, and he's unloading those shuttles, and he gets a good storm off on a couple of SCVs, but oh, there's a Reaver in there as well. Reaver took down 5 or so SCVs, so the damage that he took is limited, but there's more units in there, and now he unloads and he's gonna run those Zealots onto those SCVs, but Duyu very smartly unsieges the tank, so he does not take splash damage once again on those SCVs. Leeboknam really doing an amazing job of abusing the weaknesses that Duyu has within his static and dynamic defenses, namely his Marines. Making sure to clear out a path with those storms. So first he sends him to drop that clears out the path, and then he's gonna just fly in straight for the minerals and drop a massive amount of units there. Shuttles fly in, shuttle's gonna get focused. A single shuttle goes down, second shuttle goes down as well. The third one just managed to unload, but a Templar gets taken down before it can get storm off. On those SCVs, SCVs stay alive. Most of the Marines staying alive as well. A couple of units here running into the front, trying to take down the depot, but the depot gets repaired. And the Zealot goes down to the bunkers, and there's already another combination of shuttles. He's sending them out 6 shuttles at a time. The last drop was 4, and there's... He didn't load all of these up completely, but a couple of units in there is more than enough. And the raids taking down most of the shuttles. I think the shuttle with the Templars in it went down as well. And this is why raids as anti-drop are, in my opinion, rather amazing, because if you have about 7 raids, they can take down a single shuttle with 1 volley. And then you can just micro-ram to chase them and take them most of the shuttle before they can reach your minerals. Which technically should force the Protoss to just unload somewhere on the side and perhaps get a storm off on those raids and clear out the dynamic defenses and maybe some of the static defense as well and clear a path. But Leeboknam has not bothered clearing a path as he did prior to these drops. He's not been bothering to clear the path anymore. He's just sending them in there and kind of praying that his shuttles reach the point that he intends to reach. Shuttles get spotted out, cloaked up, taking down most of these shuttles. These shuttles are pretty much just forsaken. He's going to unload them. Gets a storm off on those raids, misses the second storm, and the raids now pulling away. Duyu doing an amazing job. He takes down the Templar eventually. Now the Corsair's going into the base, just a scout and recon mission, getting himself information. A lot of idle SCVs there as well. He's still only on 3 gazers. He's going to add a lot of gazers now because he's on 75 SCVs. His maximum supply cap is going up steadily as well. He's starting adding on more factories. And Leeboknam has just thrown out a lot of gateways here on the middle. I can count at least 8, 16, 19 gateways on the middle there, and an observatory as well. He's making a lot of Dragoons and Zealots there. So don't let this base here, even though it's quite sizely, don't let that size fool you, because this is absolutely massive. He's got over 30 gateways in total to produce from. And 6 robotic facility as well. Sends in the shuttles. unloading them on top of the bunkers. No fire bats in those bunkers. Gets a great storm off on those raids. Raids dodging, raids dying. Depot in the front there goes down. Now the bunkers are taking the focus. There's a tank here on the hill, clearing out most of the ground forces here. And Leeboknam very smartly unloaded some zealots on top of the hill to take care of the tank there. And most of the bunkers taking a lot of damage. He took down 2 depots, took down a bunch of units behind it, took down a couple of raids. But eventually, the bunkers themselves stay alive. Well, this one is gonna go down. And there it goes. And while that is happening, another drop has been loaded up. Drop's gonna fly in over the southern side of Duyu's base. At the same time as some units are gonna try to take down the bunkers in the front there. And Leeboknam makes quite a great move. Misdirection. But the storm winds up killing only 6 SCVs. Better than nothing at all. I suspect a misclick from Duyu there, but I think the misclick was facilitated by Leeboknam changing direction with the shuttles right around this part, like bam, going to the side. Whereas I am sure Duyu was clicking right around the point, right around here just before, but now an attack is coming in from the front, mostly Dragoons, a couple of Zealots, a couple of Templars there on the high ground as well. These bunkers are gonna be torn through without much effort. A couple of those Dragoons do go down to the bunkers because it takes a little bit of time to take those bunkers down. But the Marines, once the bunker go down, the Marines get exploded quite quickly. And more shuttles coming in for Leeboknam, just hovering on the southern side of Duyu's base. Duyu does not have a lot of tanks inside of his base. He's actually poorer than he should be, given he has so many SCVs. He unloads those shuttles in between those factories, going to take down those tanks in between the factories, and the game is now looking very, very painful for Duyu. Duyu's spawning a couple of tanks there behind, in the back there. Units in the front are going to go down because they cannot get in between those factories. Raid's doing an amazing job of protecting those tanks. And another shuttle with units inside it. Gonna try to unload on top of the tanks, but it goes down before it reaches the tank. Dragoons here, just making sure to take down this entire frontal area here. Try and deal damage on this factory. Factory goes down. Gonna try to take down this tank, but the tank goes down actually. Another wave of tanks spawning. I think at this point into the game, all Leeboknam has to do is keep sending in units. Perhaps pull up this observer so he can take down those raids there, and the raids will be... Those raids are the main thing keeping Duyu alive, because once units do get in there, there's less damage those units have already taken from those tanks. The units go down to those raids very, very quickly. Please pull up that observer. Oh, Duyu's tanks in the back here are staying alive. This one's getting focused. But the upgrades for Leeboknam are quite good. Upgrades for Duyu are lagging behind a little bit, but given the pressure he's under, that's completely understandable. And the observer that was pulled up does get taken down, but he has another observer. Science vessel there, and a drop comes flying in over all those tanks. Get focused down by the raids, but the raids are not in time, and the storm comes down. Only a single storm, and a second storm actually. It took down almost 40 SCVs in total. Great follow-up storm. Duyu now down to 21 minerals in total, unable to produce anything whatsoever. He's going to have to pull off all those SCVs from the gas under the minerals. Luckily, he does still have about 40 SCVs mining minerals, but his gas income has been put to a halt. But I think he should have enough gas for about 14 more tanks, given that he can buy himself enough time to stay alive. Great defensive matrix on that tank, keeping the Dragoons here focused on the tank. The tank stays alive. Tank eventually does go down. A couple of Zealots penetrating through, killing both these tanks here, mostly tanks with splash damage. And honestly, this game should be over for Duyu. There's no way he can keep on living. Leeboknam is just going to have to spam units out and keep sending them in. And it's pretty much just very slow process of tug of war. The Leeboknam will slowly progress forward, inch by inch, bit by bit, and get himself deeper into Duyu's base. I'm expecting the GG from Duyu at any time now. Maybe Duyu thinks he can keep himself alive. Another great defensive matrix, keeping the tank alive there, but a drop comes flying in, flies over, meets the raids, focus on the shuttles. 2 of the shuttles go down, but a single Templar gets out. Templar gets a storm of any. Templar kills 14 SCVs. Another wave of SCVs have gone down. Ooh, this is sweating, really sweaty game here. Dragoons now taking all the factories. Once these factories go down, it is game over. I mean, it actually already is game over. There's no way you can come back here. His minerals are so low. His unit count is so low. 85 supply against 199 supply from Leeboknam. Leeboknam loading up more shuttles. Gonna drop. He's just gonna drop units on top of. You can just drop units on top of the SCVs. He calls for a rematch. Leeboknam says, "All right, let's remake." And Duyu calls a GG, and that's how you beat JH in a PvG. It appears. And given the recent history we've had in Starcraft World where people seem unable to beat JH PvT anymore, I hope you learned something from this one, because this is definitely a great example of how to play a PvT with a very high pressure build. I really like that build. I mean, it looks very chaotic when you look at his base. It looks so chaotic. You could even say it's triggering for people who have OCD. But it does exactly what it needed to do. The amount of robotic facilities there facilitated his ability to just keep sending in drops and drops and drops and keep peeling away at Duyu, keep him on his toes, keep him from getting a steady mining pace going, forcing him to always pull his SCVs off of his minerals. Leeboknam, I'm glad I got your autosaves. Thank you. I'm going to be enjoying your replays a lot. And well, because they said rematch, I'm actually going to look for game number 2 and turn this into a 2-game cast, and I hope you don't mind. So yeah, I'm going to look for it right now. Should be back in about right now. So game number 2 is now loading up between Leeboknam, who took home the W in game number 1. Took him about 20 minutes. I mean, I'd say it took him about 17 minutes because Duyu had already lost at the 17-minute mark. But he hung in there a little bit longer than he should have, but Leeboknam took home quite a clean win. I'll also admit Duyu played very clean as well. There was one set of storms from Leeboknam that was just absolutely beautiful and absolutely decimated Duyu's ability to produce, taking down most of his workers. But let's see if he can change the result this time around. He's once again playing the Terran on the top right of the map. The red Terran up against Leeboknam, who's playing the yellow Protoss on the other side of the map. Not too far away, but pretty far away from each other. Both on a corner spot. I prefer corner spots personally because you only have to defend from 2 sides. Technically this is the 3rd side, the choke. But on middle spots, there's more directions shuttles can come from. A little bit harder. Gotta be a little bit more aware. But in the end, if you see something, you always see. If you're aware enough, it doesn't really matter if you're on a corner spot or a middle spot. At least not on this map. On the western map, it can make quite a difference whether you're on a corner spot or a middle spot. At least the difference is bigger than it would be on this map. So 3 barracks is coming down for Duyu. Next is coming down for Leeboknam, and this time he's going for a forge and a pylon first, instead of going for gateway, so he's mixing it up. Just making sure Duyu doesn't know the exact order of his build. There is the gateway coming down. Scouting with a probe. Probe move to the choke. Gonna throw down those cannons. Marine moving out for Duyu. So Duyu is not scouting with the SCV that he made his barracks with. He's being a little bit more conservative, making sure that he gets a little bit of extra minerals out by not using that SCV to scout. Instead, he's using it to mine. Not making SCVs. He's saving up minerals quite early into the game. But now he's spending it. Alright, I thought he might be going for a command center there, but he's not going for the command center. He's going for a depot, going for marines, probably going for an academy and a gas as well. Let's look at Leeboknam. Second nexus is finished. 7 course on the way. 2 gases finished as well. Putting those probes to work on the gas. It's only 8. It's only 9 probes mining from the mineral patch. So I've always wondered, I mean, I know that's only 9, but I've always wondered the exact specific number of minerals it costs you to put 6 on the gas right away, instead of keeping them on a little bit longer for about 20 more seconds. Not that it matters, because getting your robotic facility down really early really opens up offensive abilities, potential really. Because the opponent will be less prepared the quicker you have that robotic facility out. But in exchange, you will be a little bit weaker because you've got less income. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. If it works, it's amazing. If it fails, it hurts. But Duyu is playing rather passive here. Even though you might be tricked into thinking that he's playing aggressive by having these Marines here. But he's just keeping those Marines there to keep units out, to keep units from leaving. So just there to box Leeboknam in. There's no intention to be aggressive. Because as we can see, he ceased production with his barracks for a little while prior to throwing down these 2 command centers. Even mining from 2 gas already, which is quite early into the game. Academy about to finish. So both command centers have finished. Now going to resume making SCVs. Cannot make a scan yet because the academy was about to finish. No engineering bay. So he could have been. Alright, that's engineering bay. I thought he could have exposed himself to Dark Templars. I don't know whether Leeboknam is a player that tends to go Dark Templars. So far, I've only seen him going for double robotics or double Citadel of the Dunes. That's like last game. But there's the robotic support bay. Shuttle is on the way. Shuttle speed as well. That's a really early shuttle speed. And there's the Templars Archive. Looks a little bit messy once again. Triggering my base building OCD. But what matters is that he has the buildings, not necessarily what it looks like. Stem upgrade finishing for Duyu. 2 Reavers on the way for Leeboknam. Shuttle is finished as well. No Zealot lags this time around. There's no need. Only a single gateway. You don't want to spend minerals on something you don't need. That's basically the bottom line with these Korean Protoss builds. They don't spend minerals on something they do not need. The Dark Templar is going to come out. Alright, so he's one of those Dark Templar building players, but he's only building a single Dark Templar, a single normal Templar. Oh, he cancelled the normal Templar and turned it into a Dark Templar. I thought he was going to go for something else, but no, he's not. Oh, he does have Storm on the way. 1 Reaver's been loaded up, 2nd Reaver finishing up, I'm going to load it up as well. Now I started adding on more gateways. DU now has 2 factories, 2 starports, a little bit messy, but as I've mentioned earlier, function above, function above looks, really. I don't know if quality falls under looks. It's kind of like a subjective thing. Some players' quality is looking pretty, to others' quality is functionality. Right, Reaver's just hanging there. Not sure whether he's going for a frontal check. Ooh, the Wraith finds the shuttle. Oh, the Wraith dodges. No, it got found out. Now the Wraith's going to chase that shuttle around. Leeboknam spent a little bit too much time waiting around here. Not sure why I was waiting around there. He could have flown in. Probably done some damage. Maybe he's waiting for another wave of shuttles. I don't know. Oh, there's a Dark Archon there. Mind control on the way as well. I hope he doesn't go... I hope he doesn't actually get the pull off of mind control, because I hate mind control. But nonetheless, action is about to start happening. Zealot chasing the Marine. Marine almost dead. Bam, there goes it. And the Zealot's gonna pull back towards its original destination where he met the Marine. And it looks like Leeboknam saved the shuttle, so he can now go for a double directional drop attack. Gonna drop the Reavers here. Gonna fly this one in a little bit deeper, but he pulls it back. He's gonna focus on this one here. And pretty much just winds up these 2 Reavers sacrificing themselves to those raids. Tanks assisting, not much gets done. But at the same time, this drop here flies in, drop, unloads a Dark Templar. Dark Templar just outside of the range of those turrets, but a stand comes down. Scan takes down the Dark Templar. There's a Templar here on the high ground, but a Templar is not in range to storm those Marines on the low ground. Zealot gets pulled into the tank. It looks like he's pulling that Zealot in. Perhaps it's just... I think this is one of those cases where the SCV cannot enter. Or he's really wasting his time trying to kill that Zealot there. I mean, it looks nice, but kind of pointless. Right, Zealot went down. Kind of pointless, but looked nice. And another big drop being loaded up for Leeboknam. Spamming gateways all around his base. This time around, Leeboknam has not been able to deal any damage. I wonder if his next drop will deal damage. If he fails to deal damage, then it means that Duyu is going to explode. Because he's already floating a bank, already on 70 SCVs. Meaning that he's going to start adding on a lot of factories right around the 10-minute mark. Which should be around the time that this drop from Leeboknam is going to be flying into his base. At least going to be reaching the mineral line. Probably around 9:30, 9:40. It's leaving the base now. 9:30 should be about the time it's going to be flying in. It should also be about the time that Duyu is finishing producing depots, which means he can add in a lot of factories, starports, science facility as well. Drop flies in, drop doesn't fly in, drop pulls back. A little bit overshooting there. It's gonna fly in, but it's gonna get taken down. Ooh, he gets the Templars on the low ground, but Templars get taken down before they can storm on those tanks and marines. If he got those storms off, he would have cleared out pretty much this entire group of units. But he fails. Duyu holds out really well. Leeboknam now trying a 2-directional drop once again. He's gonna unload units right here. Gonna make Voss focus on that. Duyu focus on the shuttles there. But these shuttles here are a little bit delayed. And it's pretty much just going for the mind control. He gets the mind control. He's gonna pick up the SCV. It looks like Leeboknam is gonna chase down the shuttle. Shuttle gets taken down. Mind control has failed. Leeboknam's plan has failed. I think that if Leeboknam didn't really focus on trying to go for the mind control, you could probably have pulled off more pressure on Duyu. And I think that Duyu is one of those players you cannot afford to relent your pressure against. You gotta keep putting the pressure on him. Because once he has base, it's almost impenetrable. It's almost impenetrable. And he's one of those players who just keeps building turrets in every little tiny spot that he has in his base. And he's one of those players who will also just camp. He's not going to move out anytime soon. He's not going to be hasty and put himself in a situation where he can be countered. Instead, he's going to be a very secure player. He's going to build up, become big, turtle for a while, which in turn also gives the Protoss a lot of time to build up. But given that his late game is so very solid, he can overpower you with his late game Terran, even if you go for carriers as the Protoss. And it doesn't look like Leeboknam is going for carriers anytime soon. Both their APMs have slowed down a little bit. This is one of the characteristics of JH's playstyle. He tends to go for a lower APM in the late game, unless there's a lot of fighting going on, in which case his APM goes right back up. But he's just turtling, throwing down those factories, lifting his barracks to get more vision on the sides. Drop gonna come flying in from the western side. Gets spotted by the engineering bay. Raids moving. There's a lot of shuttles to take down for those raids. Takes down a single one, but most of the shuttles do reach location. There's a lot of Templars unloading there. He gets a good storm off, but this mass chunk of the SCVs are now outside of the range of those Templars. That's way too many Templars there. He picked up a couple of Templars, but the shuttle gets taken down. Unloads the Templars. Templars do not get a storm off. Marines now stimming up. He gets a storm on the remaining SCVs that were still there, and a couple of Marines as well. But Duyu manages to clear out all of the units that were dropped there. Most of the SCVs stayed alive, but the front got attacked here as well. At the same time. So a two-pronged attack. Mostly just focused on the drop here. Not on the frontal attack. But, as I said, once you give Duyu the opportunity to get all of the units up that he wants for his defense, and once you let him turtle, it's going to be very hard to even get a good storm drop off on him. Because he's a very good storm drop dodger. And he'll just, stay alive. And keep banking up. keep building up bigger and bigger and bigger until he, as you can see now, has plenty enough tanks to start his assault. And Leeboknam did not really get all that many cannons up on the middle. He's going to tear through these cannons rather quickly. Leeboknam really has to start hitting him hard. And he's planning on hitting him hard. He's building a ridiculously huge robotic facility expo on the middle right of the map. And these are 2 starports, which means he also has an arbiter tribunal somewhere. No arbiter's tribunal. Alright, he's just gonna use it as a drop expo then. He's gonna make reavers, shuttles, corsairs with these 2 starports. Sometimes people go for arbiters, for arbiter recalls on the reavers. It did get spotted out. I wonder if he knows that there's something here, if he scanned it, or if he just sees this portion here with the barrack vision. He's gonna take down just this. There's a small chance he's also gonna scout a little bit further and take this down. But a fight is happening here at the front. Leeboknam sending his units out. Duyu moving his tanks backwards a little, but there's a lot of units coming out for Leeboknam. And he's gonna just waltz right in between those tanks and take those tanks down. Duyu now pulling back all of those tanks back to his base. He just no longer has a choke. So Leeboknam can actually get himself a bit of leverage on Duyu here. If he does manage to get those zealots in between those tanks, but the tanks stay unsieged. And Leeboknam is not microing them in. He's gonna focus on taking down the units on the side here. A couple of units chasing Duyu's units into his base. Another wave of tanks and Goliaths finishing up. So Duyu is outside of the danger zone, definitely. But Leeboknam managed to throw a pretty good counterpunch on Duyu's attempt to move out and gain control over the middle of the map. And the upgrades for Duyu are lagging behind a little bit. Leeboknam's upgrades are on 112, which is better than Duyu's upgrades. Meaning that a couple of these zealots are gonna be able to penetrate all the way through in between those tanks and buy him time to start loading up this Reaver shuttle combination here and land that somewhere inside of Duyu's base. Whether it will actually make its way to an important crucial point inside of Duyu's base, up to debate. He has a lot of raids. He's got extended vision on the side, so he can. It's a little bit of a buffer reaction time to those shuttles, and those raids will be able to take down those shuttles. But where will they land? If they land here, he can siege up those tanks, and the Reavers will go down rather quickly. If he lands here, there's less tanks. Reavers will still go down pretty quickly, but those Reavers can then potentially take down the tanks as well, then take out most of the SCVs. A couple of shells get sniped, but he does manage to unload 6 or 7 Reavers there. Very close, and he's gonna focus on the main command center. The main command center is gonna not go down. It's pretty close. Just needed 2 more shots from those Reavers because he has the Scarab damage upgrade. So 2 more shots from those Reavers and the command center would have gone down. But great save from Duyu there, using his race to take down the Reavers very, very quickly. And now the setup has been spoiled. Scans coming down, and he scanned the Expo there, meaning he can now take down the Expo with his raids. Game is now looking very bad for Leeboknam, given that he has no Reaver carrier tech up. His gas is quite small. Carrier tech would really make it possible for him to get himself back into this game, because now he's going to have to fight a ground force that is superior to his own ground force. The only thing that's got going for him is that he's almost on 2-2-2, 3-2-3 upgrades. Whereas Duyu is still on 1-1. Great defensive matrix on the frontal tank there. But the tank takes a lot of splash damage from itself. Great EMP. That EMP just reduced the shields of about 12 or so Zealots. So the Zealots eventually do get on top of those tanks. These tanks unable to fire. Has to unsiege them. The raids taking down the Expo. Here you just focus on the pylons. Like you can shift attack, shift A move on pylons and add a huge list of pylons into the mix and focus on them individually instead of just having an A move in there and attack random targets. Because he took down these pylons, he would be able to use his raids way quicker at a different location if he, you know, did this. Just attacking it at random. But Leeboknam now making more cannons once again. Just throwing down another diversion, another distraction for Duyu to focus on. But Duyu is ignoring it. Duyu is just gonna roll in onto the side here, siege his tanks up here. Get some shooting up down over the hill. So Leeboknam is moving out. And all of Duyu's forces are completely split up all over the map. Units here, units there, and not enough units here. And not enough units in his... Well, he probably does have enough units in his base. But Leeboknam is going for the frontal attack here. Not getting his units in between there. But he is chasing Duyu down all the way to his base. He's got a couple of Templars there as well. And he gets a storm off on those tanks. And he's more storms in those Templars here as well. And he gets more storms off. And this is now looking pretty bad for Duyu. Duyu's gonna lose a lot of his tanks here inside of his base. This barely has tanks inside of his base. Got a lot of tanks about to be finishing up very soon. But these zealots are definitely gonna be able to clear out at least a lot of turrets there on the side. A couple of tanks behind there as well. These tanks here are making sure that Duyu is not feeling the pressure from more units. So not more units are gonna come in. But Leeboknam loaded up a couple of shuttles, now unloading zealots and dragoons on top of those tanks. Take care of the units here. But in the meantime, every single unit that's trying to walk through this choke point here is getting taken down by these tanks. We'll load up more zealots, drop them over the hill, take down those tanks very, very quickly because another wave of tanks is coming out for Duyu. And as I've mentioned before, he took down his entire line of turrets with those zealots. Great, great pickup. The fight is continuing. He has not yet unloaded shuttles over the hill here. Instead, he's using those exact same shuttles to fly in a drop. But he's gonna meet those raids, and there's a lot of turrets there. So he takes down one shuttle, takes down a second shuttle, and he does not unload a single Templar or Zealot on the low ground. Units coming in here from the side. Then he managed to sneak through the middle here. Past those tanks here, past the hill. Well, these tanks are gonna go down. But another wave of mech is about to finish up for Duyu. So Duyu is not feeling threatened whatsoever just yet. I'm sure that instead Leeboknam is feeling threatened here because he hasn't cleared this out. I really believe he should have used those shuttles from he just flew into Duyu's base to drop zealots here and take those tanks out. Because it's really slowing him down. He could have just kept the pressure up on Duyu, but instead he's limiting himself, containing himself in his own base, which means that Duyu is not experiencing any pressure whatsoever at the current moment. Gateway Expo is being a Stargate Expo with an Arbiter Tribunal is being started up here on the bottom side of the map. And finally he clears out those units. Tank unable to fire. He managed to clear them out. Now raids moving out over the map. And dropships here as well, which means that Duyu is gonna unload those tanks up on the high ground here, which is gonna make it very hard for Leeboknam to produce from this entire portion of gateways here, because everything that spawns here is gonna get focused by those tanks, and those tanks are gonna take down those gateways as well. And those raids here are gonna make it very hard for Leeboknam to unload zealots on top of those tanks. And he's being pretty smart by unloading those tanks a little bit further away, where the raids cannot take down the shuttles. And now he's going to unload on top of those tanks with the remaining shuttles. It's actually really, really smart, circumventing the purpose of those raids, which was to protect those tanks. But now two defensive matrix make sure those tanks that are still there stay alive. Leeboknam now has to unload more units on that hill. And Duyu now, it's just sending units out into the middle of the map. Trying to clear out this portion again, because it looks like that's just making Corsairs there. Unloading more units, more tanks going to be unloaded on the hill here. Duyu focusing on two locations at the same time and doing so quite well. Not really missing any beats on either location. And now there are gateways being added here on this expo as well, because Leeboknam realizes that he's going to lose his entire gateway row here, which would limit his ability to produce quite significantly. So he recognizes that he needs an expo, starts the expo, and he is being a little bit passive, but that's because he's focusing on building this expo more so than focusing on his own base, because he knows that Duyu is taking his time clearing out this entire section here, which also gives Leeboknam time to build a second base, basically. Those raids there doing an amazing job in making sure those tanks on the high ground stay alive. Another group of shuttles loading up zealots, ready to unload them on those tanks, but another group of dropships with 6 tanks at a time, are gonna unload more tanks on the high ground. And the clock is starting to tick for Leeboknam. Leeboknam even adding on Nexai here to make sure he can rebuild an entire base here. He's pretty much rebuilding an entire base here. So he's slowly losing his base. And this time he does get to unload his shuttles on top of those tanks, and actually he'll clean out all the tanks on the high ground here, which means that Duyu managed to do a lot of damage. He took down 7 gateways here. 8 gateways, which is a lot, and he managed to keep Leeboknam focused on defending instead of attacking. And a Terran that's attacking is pretty much always has the upper hand. And the Protoss you always pushed into a corner, or so it feels like, because the ground game is just so strong for a Terran that the moment a Terran is able to move out and gain control over portions of the map, as a Protoss you start to feel confined, it becomes hard to breathe, so to speak. That's the exact situation Leeboknam is in. But Leeboknam, playing Protoss, does get the advantage of pooping out a massive gateway expansion within the blink of an eye. Making Arbiters as well, Recall on the way as well, Templars there in the mix. And Voss does not know, Duyu is JH. Duyu does not know that this expo exists here. So Leeboknam has been doing a very good job of keeping it on the low-key. Although his lack of mass leaving his base here might be a giveaway. So I do expect Duyu to start scanning the map very soon, because I'm sure he noticed, or he's scanning. But he scanned the entire base. He didn't scan the map. So he doesn't know that Leeboknam, now he is scanning the map, but he saw nothing on the map. So he assumes that Leeboknam has given up. Leeboknam is massing up a massive amount of zealots and dragoons here on the expo. He's got a lot of minerals in his bank, so he can start a new base here. He can even go for, he can either go for a counterattack, or he can attempt to clean out his base, but these tanks on the high ground here are gonna trip those zealots and dragoons on the low ground out. So he has to go for a counterattack, because he's pretty much unable to clear his own base out at this point. Because Goliath's focusing on the shuttles, he does manage to land a couple of zealots on top of those tanks. A couple of tanks go down, Storm comes down as well, another Storm comes down on those tanks. And he clears down pretty much all of the units on the low ground here, but dropships are empty. 2 tanks left, 4 Goliaths left on the low ground. A couple of tanks idling there. Raids taking down those pylons. And Leeboknam is, despite having no base here, is still pretty much on a maxed out Protoss army. A couple of zealots there on the high ground. Wasted, but you can't pick them up because he doesn't have shuttles anymore. You got shuttles. But he's focusing on this. Alright, he did get spotted. Arbiter's gonna go down to the raids. Ooh, that's painful because he was banking on that Arbiter being of crucial use with either a stasis or a recall. Takes down the second Arbiter as well. He does get a stasis off. Beautiful. Only a single raid unstasis. Which means that Leeboknam can now go for the counterattack or the save of his main base. Going for the counterattack. And that's a lot of units because he's only got 63 probes. So about 140 supply ground forces. But Duyu has managed to station up a lot of tanks here in the back of his base, in the front of his base, behind his factories, and even more tanks are spawning right now. So I actually think that his attack from Leeboknam, which was supposed to be a surprise attack. It's gonna fall flat. He's not gonna be able to get in there because those tanks are taking down those dragoons and zealots very quickly. And given that all these buildings are pretty much creating a choke point, these zealots are not gonna get in there. These tanks are pretty much great storms there, though, but not enough storms to clear out the amount of tanks it needs to clear out. And it looks like the raids have ended their stasis lockdown. More units gonna come out for Leeboknam though, but as I said before, tanks are finishing up for Duyu. Duyu is just gonna have to siege them up in between those factories. Actually, it looks like Duyu has won this game at this point. I see no possibility of Leeboknam making a comeback. He's even pulling back a huge portion of his tanks to his base. And he's only got 31 SCVs. He killed his own SCVs on his minerals so he could make a bigger ground mass. And Leeboknam calls it GG. The game ends here. And kind of a disappointing game from Leeboknam. Compared to the previous game, which was a beauty, was really well played. This game, everything that could go wrong went wrong for Leeboknam. He decided to put almost no pressure on Duyu. And the pressure that Duyu did receive, he handled really well. Great movements from Duyu. Pardon me. I apologize. Maybe you didn't hear it, maybe you did. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyway. Oh jeez. Bit embarrassing. Alright. Great game from Duyu. It's pretty much how you should play Terran on fastest map. You can either play it more aggressive, you can throw out more tank drops, but this is pretty much a textbook Terran in terms of how do you turtle and just keep adding on turrets, because you know you can afford it. Why not? You've got space. Why not? Upgrades were lagging behind a little bit. He did a great job of using his units, pressing his advantage when he can. He wasn't being greedy. Being a slow and methodical game from him. And Leeboknam kind of messed up, not going for carriers, not going for a quicker arbiter stasis to lock those raids down. But he played somewhat well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this set of 2 games between Duyu and Leeboknam. Duyu is JH, and the score is 1-1. And I'm sad to bring it to you, but there's no third replay. Just 2 replays between these two on these 2 names. So no best of 3, no best of 5, just the best of 2. And both players win a game. Thanks for watching. Hope you come back another time. And make sure to like and subscribe, as they always say. I never like saying that. If you want to subscribe, you subscribe. If you want to like, you like. If you don't, you don't. It's all up to you. Have a good day.